Welcome back, Caddy Corner, episode 52. I'm Austin.
I'm Caleb.
And yet again, new location, which means one thing pretty much only. It's a guest episode. This is the 1 year special, which we're recording well before 1 year happens. So thank you guys for listening to 1 year of our voices through microphones. We really appreciate it, and we will talk more about that probably at a later date and get all sentimental and stuff. Today, it's time to talk to a long-term friend, mentor. Words go further than that. I didn't come prepared for this part of the show. Mr. Mullis, say hello to the people.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up?
Dude, this is crazy.
This is weird.
This feels so weird. Dude, it's like hard to even put into words like what this feels like, because we talked about you on the show before, and like for the people at home listening, this dude is the dude who like got us started and all this stuff. So it's like this is a crazy feeling to like have you on the show, because if it wasn't for you, then like this wouldn't be a thing. And so I thank you for that, and thanks for coming on, dude.
Guys, thanks for having me, man. I mean, this is really kind of a full circle moment for me as well. To look and see, like, you guys drove. I mean, you can say me, but you guys really drove wanting to do this in school. And so then, we just ran with it. I was blessed to be a part of y'all's journey and figure it out, because we had no idea what we were doing. We were just playing around figuring it out. And because of that, you guys discovered a passion that you're now turning professionals in. I mean, you do this episode 52, right?
Out of the main show, yeah. I think that by the time this goes up, how many episodes of After Hours will there be?
There
will be 22.
Yeah,
so it'll
22.
be like 70 something episodes.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome, and that's what it's all about. I mean, it's full circle for me. So I thank you guys for having me on, and we're gonna have some fun today.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I
right?
know, I'm excited.
It would be sacrilegious to not give you the floor and like let you introduce yourself to the people before we get too far into anything else. So.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Mullis. I'm now the assistant principal at China Grove Middle School. I met these two guys at South Rowan when I was teaching there, running the studio. Them helping me run the studio, really figuring it out together. I didn't know what I was doing, but we figured it out, and I think we had a good time and tried to make the most of everything we had. So I'm just an educator working my way through life, trying to figure everything out.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's sick.
Is that easy enough?
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better, I don't think. So before we get started, or I guess this is kind of like getting started, I do have a question. Like, you're into the whole technology thing.
Oh yeah.
So what kind of like happened that got you interested in technology to make you want to like work in that kind of field, I guess you could say?
I never thought I'd be interested in technology. I'll be honest, I became a teacher at first because I wanted to coach. I wanted to be around people, and I knew I wanted to help. I guess I wanted to help young people figure it out sooner than I figured it out, because I didn't figure it out till college. And it took a good woman to help set me straight, to let me figure it out. And so I'd always thought, let's give back and see what we can do to help encourage in some way. Technology came to me. I think I went to a conference my second or third year teaching. It was in Philadelphia. And I saw a lot of cool gadgets and gizmos, a lot of neat things that in education was pushing the limits. I saw kids recording things that didn't think were possible. I saw green screen happening. And to me, I never got that opportunity in high school. I really didn't know much about it in college. But it was really cool to see kids get excited about it. And so I remember coming back and thinking, I'm going to do whatever it takes to have the latest, the coolest tool, things, whatever in my class to keep it from getting boring. And that's really kind of how it started, was I didn't want kids to get bored in my class. And then from there, South Rowan launched the Broadcasting Academy and Communications Academy. And there was some change that was happening, some sad loss that occurred at South Rowan at the time. And I remember just throwing my name out there like, hey, this would be kind of fun to do. We'd already started doing it in class a little bit. We'd launched the Back in History Class podcast, which kind of took off surprisingly. It was easy to get something on Spotify and Apple at the time, and that was a big deal. And kids rallied around it. And because of the excitement kids had, it was, let's figure it out. Let's figure out ways to make this bigger. And so they brought the idea of the studio to me. Excuse me. They brought the idea of the studio to me, and I said, let's do it. Let's figure it out. Let's have fun. Let's make it the best thing that kids have seen. And, the rest from there, I guess, like they say, is history. Just had fun, enjoyed it, and seeing the excitement from you guys and your classmates is what kept me engaged. Let's figure out the latest thing. And then me and Austin were talking on the walk in, like ChatGPT. It's the latest AI trend right now. Let's stay on top of it, figured out how can we use it every day, because this is reality. I mean, look at you guys. Who would have thought playing around with podcasting and microphones and doing play-by-play announcement turns into a potential future career? It's your majors in college. I mean, to me, that's what's exciting, is seeing the potential where you guys. So, I mean, that's how technology got me started. I just stumbled upon it, and because of the excitement of y'all, I never stopped.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I feel like it's crazy that you say you wanted to help kids figure it out like earlier than you figured it out, which is crazy because like that's exactly what you did for me, and I can probably say the same thing for Austin, because it's like going into that type of thing, like I was on the transfer to South Rowan for the Communications Academy, and so like with that I had to take so many broadcasting classes or whatever, but that is like what helped me figure it out. Like your class is what like helped me figure it out, because like before that I wanted to be a nurse, and so
remember those days?
I do remember
that
those
was
days.
the times, right?
It's just so like I feel like this is all going to be like everything comes full circle, but like that's another thing that like comes full circle is like your passion is helping kids figure out like whatever they want to do and like whatever they want to be. But it's like that's exactly what you did for me. So
well, thank you, man.
Crazy.
I appreciate that.
A question that I wanted to ask off the back of your like kind of stumbling into technology, wanting to bring that to the high school environment. Obviously, since you've been our teacher, you transitioned into the middle school environment. Have you? Obviously, you're still new to it, but have you tried or thought of any kind of ways that you want to try and bring technology into the forefront of like a middle school environment in the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still new, figuring it out, really trying to understand where everybody's at. We have a podcasting club here, which I brought you guys in to speak to, so that's one way of trying to show them that there is potential, and if they can learn it even sooner and discover some things even sooner, they can build skills a little bit faster that way. But realistically, my mission now is if I can help teachers figure it out let's keep them engaged, let's keep excitement going, let's figure out new ways to get kids excited about learning and excited about whatever it may be. I mean, because technology's in our hand everywhere we go. It's coming every day. So how can we embrace it so that kids, we say we want kids prepared for the 21st century. Well, we're 23 years into the 21st century. At some point, we just want to prepare for everyday life. That's what it is now. We've been talking about preparing kids for 21st century since 1990s. It's time to let's go ahead and take advantage of every single possibility, technology and non-technology that's out there to help kids learn how to manage, self-control, self-regulate, and set up cables, set up cords, set up phones, what angles, We'll go ahead and let them start working on those things, because YouTube's not going anywhere. Spotify's getting bigger by the minute. Podcasts are taking off. Morgan Wallen's single just, his album broke the record with most streams. Like all this new technology and digital, why not go ahead and embrace it and use it? So my goal now is to really kind of help teachers figure out new tools and new ways to engage students even sooner than high school.
Yeah, I think that's super important because, technology is like such a big part in like our everyday lives, especially like at this day and age. Everyone has a cell phone in their pocket, but it's like whenever you're young, like in middle school, it's like you don't know how to use that responsibly. So I think being able to really hone in on how do I use this for good, because like technology and social media, like those are all like super good things, but like in our generation you see like mental health issues and like all these bad things coming from social media especially. So I think being able to like really teach kids this is how you use these and like this is how you should use it for good, instead of just like wanting to be like all the celebrities, I think that's a super important thing.
It's understanding that social media is a great tool when used appropriately, but like anything, if you use it too much, it becomes a problem. So it's how to balance that self-regulation And even like with this, like, recording podcasts is a small part, like just the recording part is a small part of actually what all goes into the podcast, and understanding that it's not just getting around, sitting on a microphone. There's a lot of back work. There's a lot of thought and preparation that went into this, and letting them see the full picture circle so they really understand that it just doesn't happen by accident. It's put together, it's intentional, it's purposeful, and that's why these two tools can be so powerful, because of the intent and the purpose and the planning that goes behind something like this.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think that I definitely like learned through 2 years of the studio or whatever, was what we've talked about on the podcast as media literacy.
Yeah.
Like we did a lot of like whatever assignments or projects or activities or whatever, like deciphering biased news articles or learning how to read a news article, where like Caleb and I, as people, number one, we create every week, so we have to know how to word things to make them interesting, and so we know the game because we play the game a little bit. But also, even before we started doing the podcast, like we would see news articles and we would think, yep, this is a garbage one, see you later. And that's because of having those reps. And that's important, I think, for kids, because like fake news is very real. Anybody can say whatever they want on the internet, and if you're naive and you just believe it, then that's on you. It's not on anybody else.
That's right.
And that media literacy is something that, like, I think it was maybe on accident. I don't know if that was an intentional thing that you kind of designed for that class, but it like has significantly affected the way that I like read content and consume content through online.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I think the first unit we always did in like contemporary studies and broadcasting was we'd put up all the different bias and show the different news and where they go, which I think they probably all have changed now. I mean, it feels like it changes every day of what you can trust, what you can't. And I mean, even with the fact checkers that would pop up on social media, we're starting to see was the fact checkers not biased? Were they singling things out? So I mean, I think it was slightly intentional, but I think it had a longer effect than I ever thought it would. That you really got to read everything with a guarded eye and a guarded mind, because you never know. I mean, you guys learned when we design something, you can make anything look whatever it is you want it to look like.
Yeah, I know. That's one thing that I talk about all the time, because like I have family who's not as technologically savvy as I am, and they'll see something on TikTok or whatever, like some things flying through the sky, it's saying it's like UFOs or whatever, and it's like, I know how to do that in After Effects. It's like these things that you're seeing, and like the people are getting better at using these softwares like every day, and so it's like they can make things look so realistic. It's like if you watch the Avengers movie, then like that stuff is all AI, and it's like you can't tell whenever you're watching it, especially if you don't know what you're looking for. So I think that like that is crazy, because like you're right, even like everything you see, you have to see with a guarded eye, because even the things that look the most real and like, oh my goodness, here's like video proof or picture proof that this is a real thing, it's like, dude, you don't know what these people can do with a computer.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys are in school learning more about it every day. I just stumbled upon it, but I mean, it used to be you needed big sound stages, big massive green screens, and you needed all this stuff to pull off some of the videos and pictures. But now all you need is a cell phone and probably a 99-cent app or a free app, and you can figure your way through it. I think Canva just launched green screening and blue screening, where as long as you got something behind it, it'll wipe it out, where there's no reflection of the green screen anymore. And it used to take heavy editing to do that. Now, I mean,
it's 2 clicks.
It's 2 clicks and it's done, and it's out. I mean, you can be anywhere you want to be in the world, and it looks so real. So I mean, it's advancing fast, but if we can continue to just teach responsibility, that's the
and I think like we were blessed enough to go to a school that the academy was, broadcasting and like learning about technology and like all these things, and so we got the like privilege of being able to learn these things in high school, but not every school has that opportunity.
No, they don't.
So and like this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is like with you being in administration now, do you have any like intentions of like getting bigger and like eventually getting to like the headquarter level
I don't know. I don't know about what future is going to hold, decision or not. I'm just enjoying, I guess, the first real year out of a classroom and trying to find my new role. But I think we have people right now in our system. I can't speak for others, but I think there is an awareness of how can we bring more opportunities to kids. And realistically, I want to be a champion of that, whatever the opportunity may be. Like for you guys, it worked out to be podcasting and videography, but for another group, it may be more agriculture based. But whatever we can do to bring more opportunities, I'll always support and be a champion of. Because that's what this was. This was an opportunity to have some flexibility and run and have fun with something, and it's paid off for and for y'all, and I've enjoyed the ride and being a part of it, and now getting to listen to you guys. So yeah, any experience whatsoever, I'm for finding new ways, because that's how we learn. We learn through experiencing. Whether you're in elementary school, whether you're in college, the more you experience, the more you do it, the more you learn. So yeah, I'm definitely a champion for that.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about, like, kind of subtly what the studio is through the podcast and also kind of here. And I think that we should kind of go through, and I have like a list of questions that I want to ask you kind of about that entire experience.
Yeah.
And we already talked about, the first one that I wanted to say was the inception point, which was, like you said, going to that conference and getting to see a green screen for probably the first time. Kind of a question that I want to ask off of that is, around that time, or even today, or whenever it was like in its prime, the studio or whatever, did a lot of your maybe like initial kind of passion and drive for what the studio kind of was, podcast, video, that kind of thing, did that come from you consuming that content on the back end, like that interest maybe?
Yeah, sorry. To be honest, when it first started, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm just going to level with you. I didn't. I knew we wanted it to be fun. We wanted it to be engaging. But at the ultimate core, I wanted it to be driven by whoever was in my class, whatever they could think, let's figure it out. So yeah, it's definitely driven a lot more by the back end of seeing what kids got excited about, like what you guys got excited about, and people before you, what you get excited about, and let's run with it. I remember one year it was it wasn't as much podcast, it was more heavy, like trick shots were really cool across the internet, and like, guys, we can do that in 2 seconds, watch, and showing people how to make quick little trick shots, and like, oh my God, look at what I did. And then mashing videos, got real big with wanting to do like mashes and collabs, and we'd run with it. So the vision for me was to make an impact. Whatever we did, I wanted to have an impact on the students. I didn't care. I mean, if it blew up big outside of the school, great. If other people knew about it, great. As long as you guys came to class every day excited about what we're going to do, let's do it. Like that's really was the only vision I had. And it's molded and morphed. So I don't know that I had a direct, clear outcome. It was just student interest. What do you guys want to do? And let's do it.
Right.
And I'd Google and YouTube, figure how to learn how to do it.
That was what I was going to say off the back of that, is like you even having the like intuition and foresight to look at like what was kind of trending on the internet or whatever as not a like digital media background at all, and thinking like trick shot video, easy mode. Like that is a very different perspective than a lot of people would have, because the kind of common consensus is like that was probably very difficult to make, and that's why it has a lot of views. Whereas you kind of took it from the complete opposite angle, which I think is really interesting. And that's kind of I'll say that you definitely spread that down to the student body, because Caleb and I think about that all the time. We'll watch stuff and we'll be like, that's easy mode. We could easily replicate that. But that's where a lot of like this comes from. Like, so the podcast specifically. So like that was something that I think is really interesting. It's an interesting way to look at it, because that's a very creator-led mindset, where it's like you actually were thinking about how it was made rather than focusing on like the trick shot element, or in that example or whatever, which is an interesting way to think about it.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah. I don't know that I ever put it like that, but I mean, you're right. It's just, how can we deconstruct it and figure out how to do it simplest? Because we were working on a budget. We didn't have $1 million cameras. We didn't have $100,000 to budget into editing software. We had to find out what was free. We had iPads. We had cheap little Amazon stuff. We bought the off-brand gimbals at the time, and let's figure it out, and let's get creative with it, and let's have fun.
And I think that like what you just said right there is like working with what you have is what has really helped us out so much. Realizing that you don't need anything crazy to like start a podcast. Like whenever we were doing podcasting at school, we had like 2 USB microphones and like a laptop or an iPad, and it's so crazy because if somebody listened to that like from the comfort of their home, like no way nobody would know that we were talking into these like little cheap snowball mics, you know. And I think
I
that
still got that snowball mic. No lie, I kept the first one that's in my top drawer.
The white one?
The white one.
There you
Let me
go.
grab it real quick. I can grab it. Show you guys. Show the visual. Hang on.
Yeah.
Iconic. Oh, dude.
there it is,
Yeah, that's it.
man.
That's the same mic that we use for the basketball games.
Yeah,
the
I know.
original basketball
yeah, the
games.
first basketball game.
Right?
The solo
We
snowball.
both talked into that microphone.
Yeah.
It's all we could afford at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
We had one and we were like, hey, it'll record both sides. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That was one thing when I was like, I'm keeping that because I bought it. It was, something I bought to provide. And I was like, yeah, that's going with me
Yeah.
as a reminder. So I've kept it with me everywhere I go. So
cool.
top drawer, instant, easy
Yeah.
access for anybody that wants it.
There you go.
But
That's cool.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like that is all you need.
That's
you
it.
know, that's all you need. And I think that is where people get confused with like all these things. And like if there's somebody who's famous on YouTube or whatever, like they think that they started with the team that they have at this moment whenever they have like 1 million subscribers. And it's like, no, that dude started with like his one cell phone and himself, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like you really don't need much at all. And so I think being able to figure out and like work around with what you have, you know, is just like grows you as a creator. You know, I think that is the reason why we have grown so far, is because like whenever we were like first year studio and like we didn't have much, but it's like we were still making cool stuff. And it's like you see that, man, we don't have a lot, but like what I made right then was like cool. So what can I make else that's cool with like this same stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so I mean, like, nobody can see like our recording setup, but it's like we have one 4-channel soundboard that's like not that fancy, and like 3 cheap microphones, and we're recording on our iPhones, like the video portion.
And you're on Spotify just like Joe Rogan's on Spotify.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the crazy thing about it, right? Is, I mean, you can take some simple setup and turn into a weekly podcast that everybody can tune in and listen to and find out with, on a limited budget, and you're not restricted. I mean, that's the soul of what it was for the studio. For people that don't know, to bring it back, is that was what it was. I mean, we had a room, we had a couple. I think the table we had was a donated table that I found on Facebook Marketplace that we could hook some cheap $20 arm.
Yeah, the boom arms.
Too. I mean, and it was just, let's figure it out and have fun. I mean, and we used Anchor, was a free app that's now owned by Spotify on our phones, and GarageBand, which was free, and edited it like crazy and had fun. I mean, that's what it was.
It's the same show we do.
Yeah, so that's the exact same
we
thing.
We use Anchor, we use GarageBand. The only thing that I use Final Cut for the video, which is Final Cut, but yeah, it's really interesting. Something that I always think back on when I think about the studio is I think about the entire ensemble of humans that were in that room. Like, thinking back at it, that was a crazy classroom. Like the talent was there. It was interesting people. Like, it was never a dull like moment kind of thing. And everybody, especially second year, was like very committed to like the end goal. I think about that all the time. And I was gonna ask, could you notice that at the time? And like, have you ever seen maybe an ensemble of people in the same place at the same time as maybe like involved as that group of people?
Be honest, man. I think I was shocked. I remember launching contemporary studies, and that kind of got some interest from students. And so we had one class, and it kind of packed out. And I was like, okay, well, 30 kids are excited about it because, at South it was choice. You got to choose. You weren't placed in classes. You got to choose what you wanted to take. So we did it as a little test run, and it got exciting. So we opened up another section. And then I think the next year, when we really did contemporary studies and been broadcasting as a pair, the gauge was there. We had 2 classes, and it was 30 kids each, so 60 kids total, and it was kind of fun. But then I remember that spring semester of the first year, I ended up going from only teaching it twice a day to teaching it 4 times a day at nearly 35 kids per class. And it was just like, this is pretty cool. This is really cool, that because you guys were talking about it. I wasn't advertising and telling people to get in here. It was the people in the class that got passionate and inspired about it. And it kind of took off from there to where even the next year, I think when you guys really got invested and came along, there was no question, this is our studio.
Mm-hmm.
It went from the studio to our studio.
Yeah.
And you took guard over it, and you took ownership, and you invested, and you guys were stakeholders, and y'all were making videos of products, and y'all were saying what we need to order and buy and do next, and really driving it. And for me, that was the coolest thing that had ever happened. I think we really had a lot of steam rolling up until COVID. I mean, we were getting ready to do some really cool stuff. I mean, we were looking at making some movies that we were pairing with some other classes. People were asking us to like film things like Slammed, where we were dropping all the new information that was coming out for the school was going through, our news show that we started doing because kids wanted to do it. So I think that the momentum really just kind of took off because of excitement from you guys. And no, I never had an idea. I thought maybe this would be one-off class that I teach every now and again, but when it took over my whole schedule, I mean, that it got down to, even after COVID, all I taught was contemporary studies and broadcasting, or an AP class. That was it. It was my full schedule, full day, and I loved every minute of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the coolest. And even because we didn't really work on Slammed, Caleb and I, we were in the other period. But then we talk about all the time how like second year studio was like our thing, and that was during COVID, and like we came back and we would go to school for 2 days a week, and we had the iPads, and so we didn't really know how to navigate, that was a weird time. But out of that time came the mini golf movie. It came some of the like iconic stuff, like came the Milkman. The Milkman. Came a lot of iconic videos, out of the pandemic or whatever, which is weird how that can happen,
Well, and it is weird because when we sat down, I remember coming back and like 2 days a week. Okay, things got cut down. How are we going to make it work? But then it just became okay. Whatever 2 days we spent in class, you guys were spending tons of time outside of class, gaining video, gathering video, trimming, planning, editing, whatever it may be. But then think about this also. I always think about, we launched play-by-play broadcasting of our high school athletic events with you two guys on the mic in rapid speed.
Yeah, dude. 2 days a week.
2 days a week. And it was, let's do it.
Yeah.
Nobody else is doing this. There wasn't the NFHS network at the time. It was, nobody is doing this. And we still got fans that want to watch the kids play basketball or play baseball, whatever it may be. And I remember them coming to us saying, you think you can do this? Yeah, we can do it. Let's go.
Let's see.
We have no idea what we're doing, but we'll figure it out. And the setup was rough. But I do know at one point we're the only high school that had play-by-play announcers letting people live stream on YouTube and watch our high school games during COVID.
And I think like in the midst of that, and like in the midst of COVID and going to school 2 days a week, I think that it almost made us more ambitious, because it was like half of our year was taken away, and so it's like that is that much time like in the studio or whatever, or like working on these things that I really enjoy working on that I can't do now. And so now I'm gonna like come back the next year, and it's like now we have to make up for all that time. So it's like let's just bust some things out, and like let's just make some cool things like as fast as we can, and it'll make you like almost work harder, because you just want to get as much out of it as like you possibly can. Or that's how I was anyhow, and I think like that was exactly the case with the broadcasting thing. Like it was like it just started as an idea, like it was just like, hey, this could be cool. And then it was like the next week we were doing it. Because it was like we had some things already, like we figured out a way that we could make it work, and then it's like we just did it like for the first time. It was like we just tried it, and like one of our mics stopped working, so like we ended up both talking into the same snowball mic. But it's like we got through it, and then it like we were just talking about this on like the show, I think it was last week, of how every time we would do a different broadcast, it was like our setup grew with our like with the time. It just like grew over time. And so the whole thing of like each time you do something you get better at it, but it was like as we were getting better, like our setup was getting better. And so it was a cool thing. It was a cool thing. I'm really glad that we got to be a part of that.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And then too, something that we talk about a lot when it comes to the broadcasting stuff was how supportive the entire like school was to us. Like we like worked really hard during the basketball season. It was kind of like a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And then whenever the football season came around, like we got the grant for the laser camera, we bought the headphones that you just pulled out of the bag and the little mixer and stuff. And that was kind of like the yeah, you guys can really do this. It was cool for Caleb and I because it validated something that we spent however many basketball games working on, and talking into mics. And then we ended up like doing it legitimately, and it changed from talking into one snowball mic to talking into like proper headsets to like a substantial audience on like what is a real streaming instead of just YouTube. So it was really cool.
Yeah, you guys were the voice of the Raiders for the NFHS network, all the live stream games. And I mean, we had hundreds of people watching at home. And sometimes, I think one time the largest viewership was the Carson South game. Yeah. And I want to say it was like 1,800 or something like that. I mean, it was up there of numbers.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people. But people were commenting and loving and loved the idea that, wait, these are high school kids doing this?
Yeah, and I think that was one of the coolest things about it too, is like especially during basketball season, like the fans really enjoyed it too, because like they didn't get to come, but it was like whenever we would be packing up our stuff like after a game and we'd be like walking through the hallways, then the people who were there would come up and be like, thank you so much for what you're doing, because like my family at home, like my kids' grandparents get to watch the games now, and that is just something that like hits so hard for me, because it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like I'm doing this because I'm in school and like this is cool because I'm interested in it, but it's not like I'm doing this so like your grandma can watch you play basketball. But then at the end of it was exactly that. It was like, okay, no matter how like tough this gets or how hard I have to work and like how many hours I have to put into this, it like doesn't matter, because now like your family gets to watch your game, And so that was just like, it was one of the coolest things, like the families coming up and being like, thank you for what you're doing, because like it actually matters, And I feel like that was the first time, like the first project that I had worked on in my whole like creative career, I guess you could say, where like the outcome or like my product actually mattered,
What's crazy about that is you made an impact and didn't realize it.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like what you guys, you're doing now is you have an intent, you have a goal that you're wanting to achieve, but to people who are listening and may listen to this, it can mean something totally different. And that's what is fantastic about, putting yourself out there and trying. You weren't getting graded on doing the broadcasting games. There wasn't a grade being held over your head or you had to hit this certain score, but yet you guys were dedicated and, really dove in and put the hours in because you were passionate. And that's what it's all about. I mean, if you're passionate about it, you'll do the work. It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
It's fun. And you're like, hey, we get to do, yeah, man, let's do this. Like today, sitting here recording, like, this ain't work. This is fun. This is enjoyable. And so, but that's what everybody strives to have. But yeah, you guys definitely made an impact. We had a lot of good feedback from that. And so it was fun.
Yeah,
that was
fun. That was a good time. We even talked about in one of our like kind of earlier episodes how like a lot of people at like that age, like 16, 17, 18 in high school wouldn't really be willing to like sacrifice their student section experience to like sit in a rickety booth and talk about football in the cold,
Yeah.
But that's exactly what we did, and like we loved it so much. And it was cool because like we would do like the first half and then we would go down and we would just like say what's up to everybody, and like we still kind of got that like football game experience, but in like a completely different way, which was cool. Like I wouldn't have traded it for anything. So,
yeah, me either.
Yeah, that was
me
such a
either.
time.
It was so good. So another question that I have for you, and this is just out of pure curiosity. Okay. So like out of the assignments that you would assign like to our contemporary studies classes, because like we did that class both years, and like they were similarly, set up. Like the assignments were like kind of similar, like they followed the same kind of pathway along. So like out of the assignments that you would assign, which one was always your favorite to like grade after we would finish? Like what was your favorite to like watch or whatever?
Yeah, that's hard, man. That's one of those curveball questions. To be honest, I didn't know really how to grade many of them at first. I mean, to be real, I didn't, because it was the creativity aspect that was fun. But then, you get into the technicalities of figuring, out. I always loved the B-roll. because if you know anything about videography, I mean, you can know anything about movies just for a second. The B-roll makes everything. So anytime we do the B-roll challenge, where who can film the best, that makes us interpret and understands the story. Because I think I'd always show, and I may have showed it to you guys, the video of the guy has a blog or a vlog, and he's just telling you you should do this, this, and this, and then he says, watch this with B-roll, and he shows you in the woods, he shows you the drone,
with the torches,
and it just changes the game. That it doesn't matter what you're talking about, it doesn't matter how boring and mundane it may be. If you got B-roll that's running with it, that's really engaging and really connected, you can sell the whole story. I mean, and you can't have a movie or a good story without B-roll. So to me, that was fun because we normally do that kind of early on, just to see how creative you could tell a story. Between that and the transitions were always pretty cool.
Yeah.
How we can build in some transitions and spins and stuff.
Jump in the water bottle. That was a good one.
Yeah, just little things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That would be mine.
Yeah. I was going to ask, is there like a video that you remember that was shown that like you were maybe like I guess really impressed with? From like
aside from the mini golf,
sure.
yeah, we'll say aside from that one, yeah.
Nobody can top that. A video that impressed me, guys. There was so many. I mean, there was some really good ones. When I think back, like you were talking about earlier, I mean that class had top to bottom some of the most dedicated students I've ever seen, and even kids that maybe took the class for fun.
Ended up being the same thing.
I mean, yeah, became so dedicated.
Yeah.
And came back for a second year or upset they didn't take it sooner. So, I mean, the scary videos were really cool. You remember those little scary movies?
Yeah. Mine was brutal.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, though. I mean, it was all part of the process of how can we film a short story to connect. So I think that was neat. I mean, there was a bunch of different videos that over time, they all hold their own merit, their own weight. So, I mean, any of them, I can't really single one out.
Sure. Another question that I want to ask, and I just thought of this because of what you said about the horror movies, made me think about like the group kind of dynamics.
Yeah.
Something that you did a lot of the time was like assign groups. Can you walk us through like how you decide who goes in what group and how that dynamic works from like an assigning group perspective?
Yeah, so personality. Just because you're best friends don't mean you're going to make the best project together. And so a lot of my groups were always around strengths and weaknesses of if you're a great videographer but you're a terrible editor, I need to get you somebody that I know is fantastic at editing but they're not going to get the best shot that's out there. Or somebody that I remember putting two different creative eyes together where you may see it as a light film, this person may see it, no, it's going to be a little more, slapstick. How can we find a balance? Because what that does is, I mean, iron sharpens iron. I mean, it makes you better, but also opens you up to a broader perspective because that's what you're going to deal with is, there's no singular way to shoot a movie. There's no singular way to do a podcast. There's all about interpretation and ideas. So anytime I'd make groups, I always figured out what dynamic would be good together, but also push each other's limits. And so that's really how I built the groups. And I loved watching you guys because you'd get a little uncomfortable, but I've never worked with this person. Good.
Yeah.
They're going to bring something to the table. So it was never random. It was always partnered specifically. And then I think in the second year classes, it became more of, okay, you guys have worked well together. We're going to put you together and you're going to maximize and really be pushed to grow because you can do better than what you've been doing. So it's finding that balance of kids you can push and kids that'll push each other.
And that was something that I think definitely like shined through for sure. Because like there's so many times where I can remember being in like groups in the studio or whatever and like having to take like a leadership role, which is like not something that I would naturally do, which I'm sure was intentional.
For sure.
And so like now we're here, which is interesting. But like also you mentioned like second year, you kind of put the groups are kind of like more normal or whatever, but we ended up, our final project was all of us in one group.
All the seniors, right?
Yeah, which was a time because we talked about this on the last show. And I guess it's 2 weeks ago now when you're listening, but Caleb said that the mini golf movie is the only thing that he's ever made that he wouldn't change anything from, which I think I agree with. And that includes our final, which was Dear South.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I think I agree with because having so many people who are like hyper dedicated, who know kind of what they think a video should look like in one room made the like pre-production and that kind of element of it a lot more difficult than I've ever had anything ever. I think. I don't know if you remember that process, but that was brutal.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember because it was like we got the project and we got the group, and we were like all sitting down like in front of a whiteboard, like thinking about what this should look like.
And I was nowhere.
For days.
Yeah, for days though, because nobody could settle on like one thing, because like he said, we all had an idea of like what we thought the final project should look like. And I think like it all ended up working out, in the long run. But yeah, dude, I remember how long it took to brainstorm for that, because it was just like everything that somebody would say, there would be like one person that was like,
yeah,
and but like you said, iron sharpens iron, and so working with that many people who were that dedicated throughout the whole thing, like I don't think that project would have worked if we were all first year studio kids, because like nobody knows exactly what they're doing, but like in that situation there, it's like we all kind of knew what we were doing. And so yeah, dude,
it meant something.
It meant something to everybody, because we were like how can we tell this story of like what this place means to us, but it's like it means something different to everybody. Like it all has like a different place in somebody's heart, but like it has a place in everybody's heart. And so but yeah,
But you captured it. I mean, you figured out a way to capture it. It's still saved on my desktop. That's one that stays on my computer, and I have it backed up on a hard drive because you guys were dedicated. Your classmates. I remember there's a couple, I won't name them, would come try to see me outside of class. Like, Mullis, come on, you got to help it. No, I'm not helping. This is y'all's. Somebody can't tell you how to do this. You have to figure out. Now, on the back end, I had no idea how you guys were going to do it either.
Yeah.
Like, I was just interested to see the creative outcome that you guys would come up with. Because then I think at one point, y'all wouldn't even let me watch it. Once you got going at it, you didn't let me mess with it.
I don't even remember, to be honest.
No,
that production is a complete blur to me.
It's a blur.
Yeah, it was.
I remember editing. I took home the MacBook and I edited it. I literally, from whenever school let out until like 10:30 straight. No breaks.
Was it fun though?
I don't remember. Presenting it was probably fun.
Presenting was probably fun.
Yeah.
But no, I do. I wasn't allowed to see any of the rough copies. I remember that. I don't know if it was you guys set that up or other people, but they didn't want me to see it. But that was awesome because you guys took ownership. And you mentioned the MacBook. We got that because people believed in you.
Yeah.
After that first year, people really believed. And I remember sitting down and telling you guys that we're going to order this. We're going to build this, custom build a MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
Just for the studio, which they still have.
Yeah.
They still use. And that you guys were the first ones to do that. First ones to run Adobe Premiere.
Fingerprints are probably still in there.
Fingerprints are probably still in there. They figured out how to change them. Go back in a couple years, put your fingerprint on it.
Just try it.
Yes, just for fun. That's funny. I remember too, like playing around with After Effects. That was a nightmare. That's not my speed though. That's Caleb's whole life now almost.
After Effects.
Kind of, yeah. For the last couple months, it has been. I'm in like a videography too.
Yeah.
In college, and so like at the beginning of this class, it's like pretty much all independent study type thing, because I'm in like a video 1 class, but I'm the only person who's in video 2. So it's just like I go in there and everyone else is learning video 1 stuff that I learned like last semester.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I don't really have like pathway for this course. He was like, what do you want to learn how to do more? And I was like, I want to learn After Effects. And so I've learned that I don't want to.
You don't love it?
No, I don't.
It's meticulous. Like it really is a lot of details. Because I remember it was one of those things that I thought I can learn it on a weekend. I can watch a couple YouTube videos and I can figure it out. The easy mode, right? I was like,
one effect takes a weekend.
That's about what it was.
Yeah.
Hey guys, look how we can do this burning thing on a video.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
how we can Photoshop some video on a TV screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Today.
So my last video project was it was like a minute long After Effects animation. And
how long did that take?
Dude, like a month.
Without a doubt. Right?
Yeah, of like, and it wasn't just like, oh, I'm gonna put it off for 3.5 weeks and I'm gonna like bust it out in the weekend. It was like a month of work. And like, funny story, this is like sidetracked, but it like, I couldn't find it. The day that I was gonna export it to submit,
panic set in.
Yeah, it like disappeared. It ended up being like some random place on my desktop, because I guess whenever After Effects updated, like all of the files like deleted off of my desktop, like from the folders that they were saved in, and they all went to this like random place. It was so scary, and it was on like a Saturday, and you can't call Adobe on the weekend.
No.
They're only open. They're only open on the weekdays, and so I would have had to like wait till Monday to call.
Man, I remember the one time we tried to do tracking, like where you put the letters like on a video and track.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's something else.
I knew then. I said, okay,
Yeah.
this is over my head at this point.
The only thing that we ever did was the title at the end of Dear South.
Yeah,
which
it was the
the
title with the drone
flew
shot.
through it.
Yeah.
And that, whenever I told him that whenever I told my videography instructor that I wanted to like work in After Effects, I wanted to do things like that, you know, because I had worked on that, you know, before, and I was like, this is sick. This is a sick outcome. I want to do more of this. I didn't realize that a majority of After Effects is like making a Pixar movie, you know.
Oh man, good times though, right?
Yeah,
Good times.
Maybe.
I'm glad I learned about that now.
Yeah, so he'll go deeper into it.
Yeah, instead of later.
So another question that I want to ask you is, like, obviously Caleb and I have taken our experience in the studio and turned it into this, where we talk about whatever we want to talk about for however long we want to talk about it every week.
Yeah.
Could you see yourself ever doing anything in this type of world, whether it's like a podcast or some kind of digital getting yourself out there type of thing?
You know, I guess I'm at this point. Well, no, I mean, I'm never too old to have dreams and have fun, right?
Never.
You know, I think I remember telling you guys, you'd ask me y'all talk about what you want to be when you grow up, and I'd say, me too. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I dabble around in graphic design. I have a passion for graphic design. That's where my passion really became. The videography, the stuff that's fun, and like podcasting is super fun. And at one point I had an idea of launching a podcast called Schooled, and it was going to be kind of chats with other educational professionals and stuff, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. But through working with you guys and manipulating different like graphics and stuff, you know, I love doing graphic design. So I do dabble in that a little bit and have fun with it. I don't know, maybe one day go a little bit deeper, but building websites, designing websites for companies, yeah, I love doing that. That's a lot of fun. I just built one a couple weeks ago. I mean, and that's, to me, making the graphics and making people's products look awesome. That's where my passion is.
Yeah, that's
And
sweet.
that's so sick, dude.
That's like opposite of that's like not my wheelhouse. So
Well, it's like we came up with a thing. I think I got a sticker in here. Our design team here was coming up with like what we wanted the school like motto or mission to be, and we came up with some words like serve, explore, and innovate. And I remember we were sitting at Topgolf. We had a retreat, and I sitting there, was playing with some words and stuff like, oh yeah, we need to make that, put that up. We'll just put it in big bold. I said, hang on, I got you guys, and like design this that we're going to start putting up and putting around.
Yeah, that's
just
sweet.
Little stickers, and I was like, that to me is fun.
yeah.
And designing shirts, like that's fun. That's my passion, my outcome. From hanging around with you guys in your classes, like I'd have never discovered this. I'd have never discovered trying to push further and create some innovative things or whatnot. But that's kind of what led me down the path.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Having fun with
that's,
you guys. So thank you to y'all, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
it pushed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like we've kind of like been tiptoeing around this answer that you would have. But I have a question, like, from all of your accomplishments, like, since you've had a ton, but specifically at South Rowan, like, what do you think is like your biggest accomplishment that you did there, other than just like grow the program, you know?
I don't know if it's my accomplishment because, you know, it's really not, it wasn't because of me, but I mean, I'd say you guys, because what you're majoring in, I'd say other, you know, of your peers that I know of went on to similar things, or they found out they didn't want to do that. Like, to me, that's the thing I look back at the fondest. Like I said, I don't know accomplishment. I don't see it that way. I see it, the things I look the fondest on and smile biggest about is getting to bring you guys back to talk to these middle schoolers. And like, guys, these are doing this. These were my students. They did this. Or hearing, you know, every now and again I'll get reached out by, hey, check this out. I did it in school. Look at what I did in college. Or I'm in communications now. This is really cool. It's because I took your class. Like, to me, that's the best. That's when everything is worth it. All the time, all the hours, all the, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, they say, but that to me is when it's worth it is seeing where you guys have gone and where you grow and you accomplish it. Or even like Carson Withers the other day sent me a screenshot of him holding a camera running, for like the Carolina Tar Heels network, and he's doing that as an internship. Like, that is cool to see what you guys go on to do. So to me, that's, the studio, I was just playing. We were having fun. I mean, it was just as fun to me, if not more, than it was to you guys. So I don't think I accomplished that. I think you guys accomplished that, and I was just along for the ride.
Well, I'll push the feeling back towards you, where like the prompts that because you came up with something that you did a really good job with, was coming up with ideas that prompted us to make a video in the first place. Like the like exam commercials that we did with the super teacher
super teacher.
And
that was a good one.
My groups was funny with the back and forth camera, and I don't remember even like it was funny. I remember it was funny, but those were like, it was a fun video prompt. Like whatever prompt you came up with that made the mini golf movie, that was genius, because I don't know, we would have never came up with that otherwise. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You definitely pushed us in a direction in some way. You know what I'm saying? So you did a really good job with that, because like a lot of the like well thought out videos that came out of the studio, I would assume were, and even like one that I think about all the time, because it was like the first one ever, was like the Bigfoot video, first year studio. Like that was definitely prompted by you. Like, he was going to make a video about Bigfoot, but then it's like, here's a Bigfoot video, and it's like, exactly. So I think you did a really good job with that the whole time through.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and like you keep saying how you didn't know anything about like technology or whatever, and like you were figuring it out with us, but like, dude, you taught me so much. Like, you taught me so much whenever it came to like how to use iMovie, like how to work this microphone, how like what these buttons do down here, like how can I record a video like with my phone to make it look good, because like before I was recording up and down, like vertically, short form, and then like the photography, like rule of thirds, like I use that all the time.
It's everywhere. I mean, if you look at it, it's everywhere.
And so like you're always like, oh, I didn't know what I was talking about, but dude, like I wouldn't know anything like if you didn't know like what you knew.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, I will say I'm proof that the internet can teach you a lot, and that is, I'll say it till the day I die. I mean, YouTube's one of the greatest teachers.
Yeah.
There's so many free things out there that if you want to do it, learn it. And that's why I've always been an advocate, like in schools, unblock YouTube. Teach kids how to use it, because there's so much free information you can learn. But, I mean, most all of that's what I did. I mean, I learned it. I spent time learning it, and then I'd share it with you guys, and doing it, I'd learn even more. And playing with it, I'd go home and play and manipulate and maneuver. And so it became a big game of what can I learn next to wow. And I appreciate that you say that, because I mean, I was just trying to figure it out to teach you guys a little bit of something.
Yeah, we I think it takes a lot of humility from an educator to, because I remember like we would ask you questions, and you would just like, let's watch a YouTube video, and you'd like airplay, and we'd watch a YouTube video. Like, that's because a lot of people wouldn't do that, because it's like a ego shot. Like, I don't know how to color grade an iMovie, I don't want to learn how to do that either, but like, whereas what the experience in the studio was like, if we would come to you with a question that we don't know, like we would turn around and watch a YouTube video on the screen, and Caleb and I do that every day, especially whenever Caleb was learning After Effects, like what's he supposed to do with that, like
yeah, I know. Yeah, it all comes back to the like self-control aspect of like social media use, because like I think that it is a totally reasonable thing to unblock YouTube like on school devices, because like you said, YouTube is one of the greatest teachers. Like, instead of emailing your teacher with like a question, like just look it up on YouTube, but with that, and like with the, I guess, like immaturity of teenagers and like high school kids or like middle school kids, like they want to watch like Fortnite videos, or like I don't know what they watch nowadays, but
they have to stay focused.
Yeah, and so like I totally see like both sides of the spectrum, but I think like, again, with teaching kids how to like use these apps and like use them for good instead of just using them for entertainment, then like that they could get one of the greatest teachers.
Yeah, I mean, and I had pushback at times when I would unblock YouTube for you guys and let you use it. Or I remember, and this may be bad, but on the media, on the iMac I had in my classroom, like it was already saved. Like if you needed anything.
The one in the studio too.
Yeah, you could just go in and click it. And because I knew you guys were trustworthy. You weren't going to do anything, because if you eliminated that barrier of, oh, this is bad, we're not supposed to be on it, to guys, use it when you need it, it became a lot of ownership on y'all not to abuse the system. And I mean, could y'all have abused it? Maybe. But most every time I would go in there and we'd fiddle around, is we were using it for what we needed to use it for. We were trying to figure stuff out. And you talked about ego. Yeah, I didn't have an ego because I didn't know enough to have an ego. It was, let's figure this out together. Let's work through it. If I don't know, I don't know. I mean, because in life, that's the way, you got to approach, in my opinion, you got to approach a lot of things is, if you go in acting like you know every single thing about everything, that's not going to get you but, a singular perspective. But if you step back and you listen and learn together, the trajectory can change at any given point. Elon Musk, I mean, if he went in saying he knows everything about, rockets and science, he knew it, listen to him, he wouldn't have got SpaceX as far. If he did the same thing with Tesla, he wouldn't have got it as far. I mean, it's all about just listening. Steve Jobs listened to other people about the iPhone. Bill Gates listened about Microsoft. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. You got to listen and learn from each other, because everybody's got something to bring to the table. And when we didn't have anything to bring to the table, we went to YouTube, because it always has something to bring to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we learn from people that have these degrees. And why not learn it from them? If they got the degree and willing to share it and it's free, let's learn it.
Might as well.
And like your brain, you're always learning,
Always.
So no matter if you're like the smartest dude in the world, like if you're Elon Musk, like there's always something to be learned. Like there's always new information to be taken in. And so like if you have like the ego type, like big ego, big head guy, and then your brain is already shut off to like taking in new information. It's like you're not allowing your brain to take in new information. So then like there's no way you could even be the smartest guy, because like, dude, these real smart dudes are like still learning every day.
Well, I mean, I've heard the saying, I don't know who says it, it's like the smartest person in the room is the room. When you combine and put everybody together, it's just like there was a study that they gave some of the best CEOs and business executives a paperclip and told them to find out different ways to use it, and they only came up with maybe half a dozen of different ways to use a paperclip that wasn't a paperclip. They gave the same thing to kindergartners and elementary school students, and they came up with thousands of different ways, because they're not so fixated on themselves and their knowledge. It's willingness to be open and creative. So I mean, in any of that aspect, I'm going to try to be the mindset of the elementary school kids, of be open to anything, because why not? Why not? It could be something else. It could be something different. But yeah, the smartest person in the room is always going to be the room.
Mm-hmm. I think too, another side of like that paperclip analogy that you just used is like the fear of criticism, which is very common in anybody who either knows anything or thinks that they know anything, which is, like public speaking is like a natural fear of people, because you got 30 people staring at you, like judging you subconsciously or whatever. At least for me, like I've shown so many projects in school, like I'm kind of over that. Like everybody's seen like my work a ton of times. And I think that that's something that's beneficial for really everybody, is to have to, especially in like the creative world, because it's like we spent 3 weeks making a video, and it's like if you worked hard on it, like that's your baby. But if you present it and everybody rips you, even if it's valid feedback, like you get all defensive and you like don't want to hear it and stuff like that, and that's a negative thing, because you grow from feedback.
For sure. There's a book that's great. I'd recommend anybody reading if you guys haven't read it. It's called Don't Believe Everything You Think. Because in your mind, you're right, you build a lot of these prejudice, you build a lot of these ideas and concepts and self-doubt. I mean, you are your greatest enemy at times, because you're going to self-doubt yourself more than the person across from you is going to self-doubt. You notice your flaws bigger than the next person who, who's sitting out there in the audience. They don't notice what you're, really, they're just trying to learn something from you, because they're trying to gain something. But we interpret oftentimes staring eyes as judgment. But this is a great book, because it talks about how, if you would just calm and relax and actually just not work on judging yourself and not working on believing everything you think, you could do wonders. But I mean, you're right. The negative, when you start getting defensive, you're stopping the ability to learn. I mean, F's find another solution. It's not failure. So I mean, you got to fail forward and keep being willing, because nobody arrives. Nobody's ever arrived. You just got to keep learning. There's always more things out there to learn. But it's a great book. I would highly recommend it. It's a short read.
Okay, that's interesting. That's definitely worth taking advantage of too. And I think
I've never heard anyone say that before. No one arrives, dude. That's like heavy, you know. Because but it's so true though, because no matter who you know, that's like the most successful dude, or like the guy in your field that you're like in school for, and you want to be like this person. It's like that dude to you right now has arrived, but like to him, he's like just like keep on trucking.
It's the difference between, are you playing a finite game or an infinite game? I mean, there's businesses like this. There's it's a mindset of, you have people that have finite goals that, you know, they're fixated on what their outcome's going to be. And man, if I could just make $1 million, I'm going to be happy. If I could just make this, I'm going to be happy. Where that's fine, but that has an expiration date, because at some point you're either not going to hit the goal or you're going to hit it, and then what? Right? Like you reach that level of success that you thought is success, and then it's done, it's over. But are you in the infinite mindset of, I'm just going to be a better version of myself every single day to provide a better version of this, and regardless of, there's no end game. It's just, if I can constantly improve little by little by little, then I've gone light years farther. Because if I set that fixed mindset of $1 million, well, what if I'd had the mindset that $5 million, but I stopped at $1 million? You know, it's just, what game are you playing, infinite or finite? And the companies and the people that stay around, they're in the infinite game. They're here to stay. They don't care if a little bit of competition beats them for this week. That's fine. You know, we're going to keep doing what we're best at. Apple is never influenced by Android. I'm sorry to say it, but they're not. Android may have the better product for a moment. That's great. Apple's just going to keep doing their thing. You know, it's just, where are you going to land for your life and your decision of, you got a finite goal that has an expiration date, or is it just, I'm just going to be better every day and we'll see where I go?
Yeah, and I think that kind of gets rid of the whole like the negativity in failure. Mm-hmm. Like whenever you think like that, then it's like, oh, it's okay that I failed today, but tomorrow I'm going to be better, instead of, you know, you have the goal of, like, say I'm going to make $1 million, and then in, you know, 10 years you still haven't made $1 million yet, and now you're like all down and out because it's like, I've worked 10 years on this goal and like I'm not even close yet or whatever. But like, you could totally just like remove that totally and just like, yeah, be better every day. It's crazy.
And I think that's definitely a way that Caleb and I have always looked at like the podcast, especially, is like, we've said literally since day one, since day zero, like, if we want this to ever be anything, we have to run it like a business, but that doesn't mean that numbers has to be at like the epicenter of it. Like, at least for me, I always judge the success of the podcast for like a month or a quarter or whatever. For me, it's based off of impact. And I receive messages, like the podcast receive messages, like people say nice things on the show, they leave reviews, blah, blah, blah. That to me is worth more than really anything else, you know, because that shows that what we do every week resonates with at least someone, which is worth it, you know?
Yeah, and as long as you guys are having fun doing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about money. It's not about the end game of, let's get to 100 and see where that. Let's get to 200. It's just, we're going to do this as long as it's fun. And as long as we're having fun, we're going to keep doing it and keep doing it. And you get a little bit better at it each time you do it. And so that's the mindset to keep with it, with anything you want to do and apply. Just have fun with it and keep doing it.
Yeah, and like we've learned so much, like especially like from having guests on, like getting a different kind of perspective on things, and like being able to have conversations with like some really cool people. But then also like every week we talk about something that is like self-improvement, but like we're not experts on these things. So it's like whenever we're coming up with our notes for whatever we're going to talk about on the podcast, is like we both have to research, and like in that and in talking about these things with each other is like we're becoming better, and like we're learning how to like better ourselves while we're telling people, or like teaching people how to be better, you know?
The experience is worth more than the grade or the paycheck. The knowledge that you're gaining from it, that's what it's worth.
That's what I think I said on one of like the recent podcasts, that like through however many shows that we had done at the time, that I've gotten like a very accidental education on how to like do things, like how to be a better student, or how to like, you know, not suck as a person.
Yeah,
like,
right?
Yeah, very accidentally though, you know?
Yeah, like the 50 and 50 challenge, right?
Yeah.
That you just kept doing.
You
couldn't stop.
70 days.
70. See, because it's just an education that you didn't know you needed.
Yeah.
You learn and the value you'll take away from it. I mean, because at the end of the day, it don't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter about that. That ain't what you're leaving behind. So, I mean, have fun doing what you're doing and enjoy every day of it, which, from this, you guys are. And that's just what you do, because then it becomes fun.
Yeah.
Life just becomes fun.
Yep.
For sure. It's all about the impact, I think. That's what we kind of take from it.
Yeah, it's all about legacy.
Yeah.
It's about what you leave behind for other people, not like what you had while you were here.
Correct.
That's a strong word, legacy.
Legacy. Well, y'all left a legacy with the studio, that's for sure.
Hope so.
I appreciate that.
Hey, it's forever archived on YouTube.
That's true. That is true. I guess
It's still
the
there.
VODs will always exist, I guess, huh?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Are you out of stuff, Caleb?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to do the last thing that I want to say is the floor is open to you if you want to ask us any questions.
Oh, man.
Obviously, no pressure.
On the spot, right? No pressure. I'd say from you guys, what do y'all remember from the studio? Like, what's your greatest thing? You asked me what my accomplishment. What's your greatest accomplishment?
My favorite thing ever was presentation day. I loved that. Yeah, because I love the and I haven't got this in my college experience yet, but like I knew that whenever I went into the studio that I was going to get feedback for sure. And like they were going to criticize like nobody was scared to like rip you a little bit, which was great because then you get better,
Yeah.
And like I think that was because it was a very unique ensemble of people. Like everybody was committed, everybody wanted everybody to do better the next time. And so the feedback was great. That's something that like we don't get directly from the podcast in the same way. Like we don't have to show what we do in front of like a group of 16 people, and then they're gonna like, hey, this was really good, but this really sucked, that kind of thing. So I like that element. I will always remember is the feedback.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to say that same answer, but I will like piggyback off of that for a little bit. Like I have gotten that experience in college, and I think like if I didn't have those kinds of experiences in high school, then like college would suck, because like I won't say that people are harder on your work in college, but I would say that they're more like particular about like what they say and like what they see, because like everyone has like if you're in a videography class that has like 15 kids in it, then like everyone has the things that they look for whenever they see a video, and like some of those things are not things that I look for whenever I record and like edit a video. So like being able to like hear all these people's like things, like they sound like they're coming at you, but they're really just trying to help. But it, like, and I realized that, because of like our presentation days in the studio. So yeah, I will always remember that too. I would say that one thing that I was always like really excited for was whenever we were in contemporary studies and we would do like, you would tell us like send like a remind and be like, come with an article today.
Yeah.
And like write it on the board, and then like you would make us talk about it in class. But in like looking back on that, like whenever I was like a first year studio kid, I hated that. Like I hated whenever you did that, because I was like I don't know these kids, and it's like now I have to read this article and like like remember it and like talk about it and like all this stuff. And I was like, this sucks. But then like later on in the class, it was like I looked forward to those times whenever you would like tell us to go find an article, because it like gave me an excuse to like find something cool that like I thought was interesting and like read like an article about it. Because like at that point in time, I didn't read articles, like dude, I got better things to do. Like I can scroll on Instagram instead of reading this article. But then like with like the Smart News app, there are like some funny articles on there, and dude, I would just like remember like looking through them and like finding like the craziest one, and then just like reading it and like learning about the things. And then like whenever you would like, we would all write them up on the whiteboard
every time,
and then you would like only pick a couple. And so like I always wanted to pick like the best like clickbait like title so that you would pick it so that I could like talk about it. And it was just like, it was just crazy how like the tables turned, because like one thing that I hated, like I ended up like it was so much fun. And like I still use Smart News to this day. And I anytime I get like a crazy notification, like I'll always go read the article. And it's like something that I never did before. Like I never read the news before, but like now I do it all the time. And so yeah, that's something I always remember.
Goal achieved, because the only goal for those assignments, the only one was to get you to read. That was it. That's the only goal. Read something that you cared about. Because if you'll start reading a little bit that you care about, you'll do it again the next day. You'll do it again the next time. And if I don't pick you, well, then you're like, why the heck didn't he pick me? Let me pick something a little better.
Yeah, let me pick a better one.
Yeah.
And like another thing too, like you would always get the notifications on your phone, and like I would find, like, anytime I would get like a fun notification, I would always like read the article and like write it down in my notes. And so like I could remember it for like the next time that you would ask. So it like became a thing to where I was like thinking about it even whenever I didn't have to think about it, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Everybody that I've talked to from contemporary studies uses Smart News. I haven't met anybody who doesn't still. I don't know what it is.
I love Smart News.
I do too. It's like the best news curating app, I think. Really.
It's pretty solid. I mean, it kind of gives you a little bit of everything.
For sure.
I remember I tried one out. I think Flip. I think it was called Flip at the time or something like that. And it was just terrible. And I don't even remember how I found Smart News. But then it became, everybody better download this. We're going to figure it out. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it became fun. But yeah, I still, to this day, I check it and get the little notifications in my feed and check the article every day.
It's like the only app on my phone other than like messages that I have notifications on for.
Yeah, facts.
Somebody needs to like tag Smart News in this.
Yeah, we'll put it. It's in the description, guys. It's in the description.
Get you guys
some Smart News in your life.
Get you a little sponsorship from Smart News.
Yes, that would be crazy.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something. That would be another full circle moment.
If you just look at it, I mean, if you look at the company, a lot of things that we use were just built by like small people.
Yeah.
Like just 2 or 3 guys got together and decided, hey, let's do this, and it took off to a company. I mean, and that's what you guys are doing here. So
for sure,
that's awesome. Other questions. You put me on the spot. What have you learned? So let's do this. Since this is going to be the year episode, right?
Yeah.
I'll flip it. What have you learned from a year of doing this? Like, what is your takeaway, and what's your next steps for a year of doing podcasts? Put the pressure back on you.
Okay, let's do takeaways first.
I one thing that I took away is like I really don't like Austin that much.
Yeah.
Nah.
Reciprocate. That's why we do some after hours separate sometimes.
Yeah. Anytime we have like a fight or something,
Yeah.
we're like a married couple. Like whenever we fight, we
but
like
with fist fights.
Yeah.
Fist fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like go and like sleep on the couch.
This
Right.
podcast does not endorse violence.
No, I think one of the biggest takeaways is like how kind of easy it is to be consistent. I think like with recording a podcast every week, like posting 2 shows every week, you know, it's it makes you have to be like consistent. And like one thing that we said from the very beginning is like consistency is what like grows these kinds of things the most. And so I think just learning how to be consistent with the podcast, but then being able to use that in like every other aspect of life too, which is like crazy to think about, because looking back, like before I started the podcast, like I wasn't very consistent in anything, you know, but now that I do this, it's like I'm consistent in everything. And then another thing too is like organization wise, having to like stay organized. Like I have to make sure that I can find like everything whenever it's time to record. Like I have to, like remember where I put everything, and then like I have to remember where I put my articles that I'm like gonna like get my information from, and like all these things. So I think those are my 2 biggest takeaways is the organization and the consistency.
Nice.
Yeah, and coming from that consistency point, that literally was like one of the cornerstones that we built the show off of. I think that the analogy that I used, I don't even know if you remember this, but I just remember it because it was like very profound in my brain what I said. I was like, imagine if we were a shoe store, but nobody ever knows when we're open, and they don't know if we sell shoes. So
That's
it's
right.
Yeah. And so instead, like we just are here every week, twice a week with 2 different shows. So you know when we're here and you know what we sell every week. So that was like that and organization too is a big one. I was the same way, especially organization wise, is brutal. But now like I'm very particular, especially digitally. My drives are all organized. My SSD, which is behind us, is organized. Like my desktop is organized. I use a digital second brain tool called Notion. I don't know if you've heard of that or not.
I haven't heard of Notion.
It's a great tool. You basically can literally build like these full databases and you can link like your Google Docs and your Word Docs and upload videos and blah, blah, blah. It's a great tool.
Check that
and
out.
I use that for a lot of, I'm doing a video for my class in school, and I have a full Notion page for that and whatever. But it's a great tool, and that organization thing is real. And like even just like you said, consistency with multiple things, like the way that our show is with what we bring to the table is we learn these like self-improvement kind of habits based off of just researching them, and like starting one positive habit, it snowballs so fast because like the podcast is this sense of like self-reliance in the future. Like of course, like I'd be lying to the camera if I said that I didn't want this to like be my job, like be my business one day. It would just be naive to say that that's not the case. But because of that like sense of self-reliance and like drive towards like not having an employer necessarily, it builds other good habits. And then like Caleb said, like consistency and stuff like that. And those are all true. Something that I have definitely taken away from it too is how much I like enjoy researching everything. Like I love learning new things. I love having to go out and do the research. And then through the podcast too, like as during my Project 50 series I've been doing on TikTok and stuff, we talked about this in one of the episodes too recently, which is like I put myself out there for 50 days or whatever. And through that process, I'm now way more comfortable to do like personal anecdotes into the podcast instead of just doing like basically reading an article sort of to the microphone. I'm more likely to like tell stories onto the microphone, like be more of a person, I guess.
Yeah.
So like putting myself out there too is like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So
it's a good takeaway.
Yeah.
Come a long way from sitting in holy grind.
Yeah, dude.
Talking about.
Yeah, that's crazy
how to
because
do
that was
this.
like, and that was one of the things that was funny too. Is like a couple of days ago, I got the Snapchat memories from one of the football games. Whenever it was all of like the whole everybody was up there. That was funny. That was like literally like yesterday or the day before, something like that. And I was like, what timing to get this notification?
Timing, right?
Literally, yeah. But yeah, and then he also asked, what's next?
Yeah, what's your next step? Where you headed?
Debut the mini golf movie.
Debut.
Yeah,
Gotta do that.
I think like, dude, it's like that's like such a tough question, but like it's like such a simple answer for me. I think, and I think it's just like do this for another year, like you know, like do exactly what we did this year, but like next year.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I think that we do have like some goals that we kind of lined up for 2023, and that one of them is guests, more guests. And so here we go, new guest. But we also have like a couple of other guests that we're kind of in talks with and stuff like that. Next week, Caleb and I are going to Wilmington to shoot. My mom has a conference out there, and we're shooting like the video and photo for it and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And so we're going to do that, and we'll probably shoot a guest episode there.
Yeah.
Because we're traveling for the podcast, so that'll be cool. But definitely more guests. And then another goal that we haven't talked about at all on the podcast, but I'll break it here, is we are renovating a space to be a studio for the show.
There you go.
And so it realistically should be done by the summer. We'll be rolling from there. That's another big goal for 2023 is to get that space like fully rolling, to be awesome.
Dedicated space.
Yeah, dedicated space.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
A year ago, would you have thought a dedicated space were to do this?
No, a year ago, I don't know. I also think a lot of the time, like, it's like very common for people to say like a year ago I didn't think I'd even be here, but a year ago I definitely thought I'd be here. Like there's a year, if you would have asked me a year ago, like are you ever gonna miss a podcast? I'd be like, nah, no chance.
No.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No
That's
chance.
Awesome. That's what'll make you go for 10 years or 15 years and just keep it going.
And that's the thing too, is like it's really natural. Like for Caleb and I, like we just it's only even it's not even really unnatural, but like it's a little unnatural at first, especially doing what the main show is, like coming and spreading. That's not really like Caleb and I's like super personality, but then we do after hours every week where we literally just press record, turn the cameras off, press record again, and we talk about whatever we want to talk about, and it's just Caleb and I hanging out for however long we want to talk into a microphone for.
That's awesome.
And so yeah, I think that one of the things that I want to do for 2023 as well is like be more like available to like the community. We talked about this a little bit like early on, because we had this idea for the baseball team originally, whenever that was, last spring-ish time. But we have the kind of curse and benefit of being like small town, hometown, local vibes. And so we can leverage that into, whereas if you live in like a city, you're never going to meet the owner of the local barbershop. But like Caleb knows the owner of the local barbershop. And so we can leverage that into a podcast guest.
Sure.
And so that I think is something that I would like to do this year as well, is try and leverage being local.
That'll go far.
Yeah.
That really will. That's awesome. Because I mean, you are blessed and cursed that it is small town, but there's a lot of really cool stories to be told. So I mean, like you said, the more guests, I think the more listeners, the more people to be involved because you're connecting to a broader audience. So I think it's awesome. I really do, guys. That's all. That's all the questions I got.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. Seriously.
Of course.
Yeah. Thank you for doing it. Thank
course.
you for coming on.
Super fun.
Of course.
The 1 year special, you know?
1 year special. From here on out, I'm not Mr. Mullis. I'm Josh.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Josh. I'm
Worth knowing.
putting it down. Yeah.
Okay.
That's who
There
I
we
am.
go.
All
The
right.
name's on the desk, I guess.
Name's
you
on
know?
the desk. That's right.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll put Mr. Mullis' stuff in the description. We'll put all of his stuff in the description if he wants or whatever.
Yeah, whatever you guys need.
And, you know, here's to another year of the podcast. Maybe we'll have him on for episode 104 or whatever the numbers are. Math's not my thing. So thank you guys so much for listening. Rate, review the show. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. We'll see you guys all next week.
Peace.